Lisa just told me a really great story about how the emotion code affected her. And so I thought we'd just have her share that quick, and then I'll go ahead and start. Lisa, here you go.
Thank you. Hello, I'm a Trinity grad, and one of the assignments that we had was to do the emotion code. And 2 emotions came up, and I released them. I was in Oklahoma at a friend's house, and I slept like a rock. I never do at anyone's house ever. But it was inherited emotions 4 generations back. My mom and I have been estranged for over 25 years, and it healed our relationship. So it was on my mother's side of the family, and we have a beautiful relationship today as a result of releasing those trapped emotions. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Well, I'm really excited to be here. They told me I was going to Trinity somewhere, and so I was excited. But I'm actually really excited now to find out what this is about, and I'm just thrilled to have the opportunity to be here and share some information with all of you about the emotion code. Raise your hand if you've heard of the emotion code. Raise your hand if you haven't. Awesome. So our company purpose is healing the world by empowering you. Raise your hand if you think the world is kind of in a sorry state and could use some help. Yes. I agree. So this is me. I'm a retired holistic chiropractor, medical intuitive. We're all intuitives, really. And as you do healing work, you become more intuitive, and that's nothing special, really. But I've become an expert in energy medicine. I'm the author of the Emotion Code and the creator of the Body Code. Our team has certified over 10,000 people in the Emotion Code technique in somewhere around 80 countries or more. I've done over 1,000 radio, podcasts, TV, magazine interviews. I've done seminars all over the world. In fact, my wife and I are just getting home. We're going to finally sleep in our own bed Monday night after 6 weeks of being in Europe. So we're kind of on our way back. So we've been over there teaching. And I'm on a mission to teach this healing work to the world. It's not difficult. It's actually really simple stuff. This is my wife, Jean. She's been my assistant and partner, in crime for 41 years now. She has 8 children, 5 grandchildren. That's her right there. She's an artist and a designer, and these are her 4 boys, our 4 boys, and our 4 girls. Yeah. They're all beautiful. Raise your hand if you think I married above my pay grade. Yes, you would be correct. All right, so we believe this work has come from up above, that it's a divine gift. So we like to have a moment of silence before we start an event like this, so that we can have some help from up above and focus a little bit on gratitude. So let's do that now for about 15 seconds. You ready? Here we go. If you want to help me, you can. All right, thank you very much. Well, I look like this today, right? But if you go back about 50 or so years, when I was 7 years old, I looked like that. I was really, really sick with the measles. And I had overheard my parents talking, and I knew there was a plan for me. I knew that the next day I was going to be admitted into the hospital. And I was going into something that they were calling an oxygen tent. Now, I don't think they have those anymore. It's kind of one of those things back in that day. But I didn't know what an oxygen tent was. The tent part sounded kind of fun because I was 7, right? But I didn't really know what that meant. But I was really sick. My parents had made a bed for me on the couch in the living room so that I could be near their bedroom. And this particular night, I'm lying there on the couch feeling really, really sick. And my parents walked into the room. Everyone else had gone to bed. My parents walked into the room, and my mother said to my father, she said, "Honey, will you kneel down with me and say a prayer so that our boy will be able to get well?" And so they did. Now, my dad wasn't a preacher or anything like that. He was in real estate and he was in construction. But sure enough, they knelt down by the side of the couch. My dad starts offering this prayer for me. And in the middle of this prayer, which wasn't a long prayer, and it was probably the first time I think I'd ever heard my dad pray, honestly. But in the middle of this, all of a sudden, something amazing happened. This change started at the top of my head, and it went whoosh through my body to the soles of my feet, and I was instantly, completely, totally healed. Now, to go from being really sick one moment to being completely healed in the next instant is so bizarre and so crazy and so impossible that you can't ever forget that. It is burned into every particle of your being. And that's how it is with me. And I remember that event like it happened yesterday. And if I live to be 1,000,000 years old, I'll remember it just like it happened. And I held my tongue till my dad was done praying, which didn't take long. And when he was done, I said, "I'm better. I'm totally better." And they said, "That's fine. Go back to sleep now. Tomorrow you're going in the oxygen tent." But the next day proved it, that I was well. And so at age 7, I learned there's a higher power that we can draw upon and we can get help. And to me, at age 7, it seemed really simple, right? We tend to complicate things. How many of you were in David Martin's class a little while ago? All right. This all bears upon what he was talking about, how, we come into this world and right away we start being lied to about who we are and what our life is supposed to be and what we're capable of, right? Well, so fast forward about 7 years, things tend to run in those 7-year cycles in our lives, right? And I found myself in a place like this. It was a hospital because I had started having these terrific pains in my back that were really, crazy, off-the-chart pain that would put me on the ground. These would come out of nowhere, and it felt like I was being run through with a couple of swords or something. It was crazy. Terrifying, really. My parents took me to the hospital. They ran all these tests on me, and I remember very well how scared I was and confused I was, and I could see the concern in their faces. And I remember being there, and I remember the doctor coming in and talking to my parents in low tones. They ran these tests on me, and I found out years later that they were told that I had kidney disease, and it was about 50% fatal. But they had nothing to offer me at all. Nothing. There was no treatment. There was nothing. My kidneys were fighting for their lives. And if they lost the battle, I would lose the battle because they didn't do kidney transplants back in those days. This was a long time ago, right? So my parents decided they weren't going to give up. My mom was really open to alternatives. And so they decided they'd take me to see somebody else. So they found a different clinic that they took me to. Now this clinic, I've looked and looked and looked online to try to find a picture of this clinic. I don't think one exists. But I found one that actually looks a little better than that clinic, and this is it right here, okay? This was a clinic that was out on the edge of town in the middle of a wheat field, right? This is in Montana where I grew up in Great Falls. And so my folks took me to this place, and I can remember scraping the mud off my boots, to get into their door when it would, after it would rain. But I would notice that sometimes there would be busloads of people leaving this place. People would charter buses to come and see these two healers. And so I went there, and they started working on me, and right away, my pain started to recede away. And within about 3 weeks, I was dramatically better, almost completely well. Within about a month, my parents took me back to the clinic, this clinic, and they ran all the tests on me again, and they said, it's a spontaneous remission. It's remarkable. Whatever we did must have helped, I think is what they said. And I knew these guys hadn't helped me at all. It was these people in this clinic. So, at age 13, I decided I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to help people. And if I needed to work in a clinic like this, out on the edge of town in a muddy wheat field, that was okay with me because this seemed to me to be the natural habitat of doctors who knew what they were doing and who got results, right? Raise your hand if you're here. Okay, about 80% of you, that's pretty good, at this point, right? Pretty good, all right. So the emotion code is groundbreaking energy healing. And what is it? Well, it's a simple and transformative energy healing method. Energy healing, that's all it is. It helps you to find and release the trapped emotional energies that are still in your body from those events that you've been through that maybe you would rather not have gone through, or that maybe an ancestor of yours might not have wanted to go through, like we learned here from Lisa, right? And once released, those energies make it so that conditions in the body can improve and things can get better. So we have some great people who have written us some really nice endorsements, and I'm not going to read these in the interest of time, but raise your hand if you've heard of Tony Robbins. This is a great one. We got a call one day a few years ago. They invited us, they flew us out to their house, and it was cool. We got to work on them. We're friends with them. Greg Braden, raise your hand if you've heard of him. Greg Braden, yeah. One of the nicest people I think I know. Joe Dispenza, have you heard of him? Yeah, another great guy. These are all great endorsements that they've given to the emotion code. So the emotion code, and really my whole life as a doctor, has been about one thing. And that one thing is, and has been, to find out what the truth is about a person that would come to see me. I wanted to know, what is the truth about you? Why are you sick? Why do you have this problem? Why are you having these symptoms? Why have you been diagnosed with your disease? Why is your body manifesting this problem? Whatever it would be. I wanted to know the truth. And that led me, really, because of these experiences that I had had earlier in my life, learning that there's a higher power that I could draw upon, and wanting to know the truth, I developed this habit. And the habit was, before I would go to work on somebody in my practice, I would take a moment and I would ask for help from up above. Raise your hand if you believe that there is a higher power. Okay, the majority of you. And it doesn't matter, I don't think, really so much what you believe. We teach people all over the world. And we all have different beliefs. But if you believe in a higher power, what I did, having learned that there is a higher power, and I call that higher power God, you might call it source energy or something else, or creator. But before I'd go to work on somebody, I would just take a moment. And I would say something like this: Father in heaven, help me to work on this person. Help me to know what this person really needs. Help me to know how to help them. Thank you. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen. As a Christian, that's what I would say. And it was just a mental thing. Nobody ever knew that I was saying a prayer for them. Okay, this went on for like 20 years or so, roughly. Not once did I ever tell anybody that I was asking for help from up above for them. But I'll tell you something. That higher power, whatever you might call it, is aware of everything that's going on with us, I believe, all the time. Because there were times when I was in practice when a patient would come in to see me and I didn't know how to approach their problem. I didn't know how to deal with what was going on with them. And in response to that silent prayer for help, information would flood in sometimes like an avalanche of understanding. And in 20 years or so, that only happened, I can count the times on one hand. That's not usually what happens, right? Most of the time when we ask for help, it comes as a subtle little thought or an impression or an idea, and we usually miss it, or we think that it's our own creativity coming up with that, right? But often it's the angels around us that are speaking those things to our minds. So that's how answers come. So anyway, here's a great truth from a man named Nikola Tesla. He said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And that is absolutely true. And so let's talk about energy for a minute. Think about this. Everything is energy and everything is vibration. The chair you're sitting on is made of energy. The table that you're sitting at, the food you're eating, your body. Now, some energy we can see, like the physical body that we have, but some energy is invisible. Would you agree? Some energy you can't see. Can't see electricity, but we use it all the time, right? And within us, we have this intelligence that has been known since time out of mind and called different things like the chi, the prana, the ki, etc. And the bottom line is that you are a being of pure energy, and we all are. That is the truth about your existence, right? Now, think about this. If you take your hand, you've seen that hand before, it looks solid, doesn't it? And if you slap it down on a desk, it makes a nice thunk sound. But if you were to magnify that hand is actually 99.999999999% empty space, and probably even more than that, really. Our bodies are really entirely empty space. In fact, some quantum physicists recently made a calculation. They said, if you could take all 5.8 billion people in the world and remove all the empty space between all the atoms in their bodies, you could actually fit all 5.8 billion people in the world into a box the size of a sugar cube. Raise your hand if you think it would be crowded. It would be very crowded. But you could do it theoretically. So if you put your hand under a big microscope at about 40 times magnification, your hand might look like this, the cells that make up the hand. Doesn't look like your hand, but it is. At about 850,000 times magnification, you might be looking at some molecules like this. That's still your hand. Doesn't look like your hand. And eventually, at somewhere over 1 million times magnification, you might be looking face to face at a single individual atom. And if you look inside that atom, you'd see, well, there's really nothing in there. It's just empty space. And there's some little infinitesimally tiny energies that are zipping around, at the speed of light. And that's what we are. Isn't that weird? So really, if you think about this for a minute, here's another amazing truth. And I want you to open your mind and open your heart for a moment about this. Think about this, okay? Your body, what is it? It's made of this stuff. It's made of energy. All of these, an almost countless number of these subatomic energies that are forming your body. And all those little energies are all flying in formation, keeping your body from flying apart, allowing you to have these experiences that you're having in this world, allowing you to make your decisions and learn your lessons and understand the consequences of mistakes that you make, right? And it's all about your progress in this world and beyond. So it's pretty amazing if you start to think about it for a minute. That's really what we are. We're made of energy. Well, guess what? Energy is intelligent in and of itself. Scientists have done studies, and they've proven this for many years, that these very small, the smallest particles, these smallest energies, they're not really particles at all, they call them particles, but they're just energy, they will change their behavior depending on what the observer is expecting to see. Isn't that weird? These tiny energies will change their behavior depending on what you, as the observer, are expecting to see. And that's how we can affect the world around us, you see. And think about this. One of my favorite miracles from the Bible is where Jesus is walking out on the water, right? And it's a stormy night, and the apostles are in the boat, and they see him, and they think it's a ghost, and they're terrified. And he says, wait, no, it's me, don't worry. And so Peter, very impetuous, says, well, if it's you, command me to come out to you on the water. And so he has the faith of a fisherman, right? This childlike faith, and Jesus says, well, all right, come. And so he gets out of the boat, and what do we read? He's walking on the water, right? And at first, what's happening? Well, is the water intelligent? Is the water made of energy? Yes or no? And all energy is intelligent, or governed and guided and upheld by an intelligent mind that is the matrix of all the universe. And so the water is upholding his new state of belief. He believes he can do this, you see. And so the water decides, all right, he believes he can do it. Let's support him in that belief. And so the water's holding him up until what happens? He starts to see how abnormal this actually is, right? And I'm sure it was kind of stormy, it says. And so what happens? As soon as he starts to feel a different emotion, instead of belief, he starts to feel what emotion? Fear. When he starts to feel fear, what happens? He starts to immediately what? He starts to sink and he cries out, Lord, save me. And Jesus saves him. And then what does Jesus say? This classic line. He says, oh, ye of little faith, why did you doubt? And I always like to think, well, he did walk on water. He should get some credit, right? I'd give them a little credit. So anyway, those energies in the atom are intelligent. We have power over those energies in our bodies. We are right now in this world living this, we're in this dual kind of existence, right? How many of you have had the experience where you died, something happened, you had an accident or something, and you died, and you were able to look down on your own body? Anybody have that experience? Okay, we got one over there, and that's happened to you, and you too. See that? And you too. So see, that's not that uncommon. And I ask that question in every event that I do, and it never fails. There are people in every audience that have had that experience. So you see, we're spiritual beings having this physical experience in this world, right? And there are divine reasons for that. Well, inside of you, you have this spirit that I believe is your energy blueprint. It's your energy body, okay? And it's generally ignored by mainstream Western medicine, okay? Well, that blueprint, that energy blueprint, helps your body to heal and helps you to regain balance and regenerate. And trapped emotions will distort that blueprint. Now, we're going to talk about what trapped emotions are. Trapped emotions are the most common type of imbalance that human beings and animals suffer from. Imagine life without any emotions of any kind, right? What would that be like? Raise your hand if you've experienced a negative emotion in the last couple of days. Anybody? Okay. How about a positive emotion in the last couple of days? Sure, right? What if you couldn't experience any emotions at all? Do you think life would be worth living? I don't think it would. No, it's the emotions that make our lives worth living, and it makes animals' lives worth living as well. Now, I grew up practically on the back of a horse in Montana, and I never would have ever thought that horses, for example, had emotions. I knew if you kick them, they go, and if you kick them twice, they go twice as fast. That's about all I knew. But anyway, these trapped emotions affect the physical body as well. Emotions are energy, and so our lives are really colored by those emotions that we experience. And they provide motivation and direction and contrast for us. Sometimes, though, we experience intense emotions. And sometimes those emotions don't get processed very well. And so the energy of those emotions, because everything is energy, including emotions, sometimes the energy of those emotions can remain behind in the body after an emotional event is over. One of the first times that I saw this was a woman that had come to see me because she thought she was having a heart attack. She showed up at our office. She's got crushing chest pain, difficulty breathing. Her left arm is completely numb. The left side of her face is numb. I mean, raise your hand if this looks like a heart attack to you. It sure did to me. And I told my staff, look, we might need an ambulance here. Give me a moment. And so I took her into a room and I did some testing really quickly on her. And what I found was she had a trapped emotion. Now, we have a chart of emotions. I'll show you how that works in a few minutes here. But the emotion was grief. And so I got a little more information about this from her subconscious mind using muscle testing to get answers. And what I found was this had actually happened 3 years before. And when I arrived at that, she burst into tears. And she said, I can't believe that's affecting me. I thought I dealt with all that. And I said, well, what in the world happened? And she said, 3 years before, her husband had been having an affair. And she found out about it and confronted him with the evidence, and it all just blew up, right? She was really deeply in love with this guy and was planning on being with him forever, but she was betrayed. Raise your hand if you've ever been betrayed in some way. Yeah, so you know what that feels like. So she cried and cried and cried, and she went to therapy. She got divorced from him, went to therapy, dealt with it mentally. She'd even gotten remarried. So she was with a new husband. And as far as she was concerned, that ex was just her ex and it was just a bad experience. But as far as her body was concerned, that grief was right there still. And when I released that trapped emotion, and I'll show you how this works in a minute. When I released that energy, the feeling came back into her arm and into her face that fast, boom, within just a couple seconds. And the chest pain was gone, the difficulty breathing was gone. And She left my office about 10 minutes later after joking with me and my staff and feeling great. And after she left, I sat down at my desk and my head was spinning. I was thinking, what in the world did I just witness? What was that? How did that happen? Well, now we know that trapped emotions are a huge underlying cause of pain. In fact, 90% of all the physical pain that people have, in my experience, and in the experience of the thousands of practitioners we've trained all over the world, is that 90% of that physical pain is caused by emotional baggage. So if you're in physical pain right now, I'd like you to raise your hand, because probably some people are. Okay, you got some and you... All right, raise your hand if you're really maxing out on this. If it's like a 10 on a 10 out of 10 scale, if you're a 10, raise your hand. Okay, anybody okay, you're a 10, all right, and you are? What's going on with you back here? Okay. So it's a really emotional pain for you. All right. Well, we're going to come back to you. And what's going on with you? Okay, I'm going to have you come up in just a second, okay? All right. I have to hurry because we don't have a whole lot of time. But let me explain how this works, okay? When we're born into this world, for the most part, we have this clear, clean, pristine energy field represented here by this person. But then, things start to happen. How many of you had something bad happen to you or negative when you were a kid? Yeah, I had things like that too. And so then what happens is those energies get stuck in the body. They get left behind. How many of you wet your pants when you were in elementary school? Anybody? Don't be shy. Oh, only one person? That's BS. You guys, okay, 2 of you. Sure, I did that. My wife did that. But see, that's an emotional thing, isn't it? We get picked on. Maybe we get bullied. Maybe our parents argue. Maybe our parents get divorced, right? Maybe we get divorced. So as life goes on, we end up accumulating these energies. And a trapped emotion is a little ball of energy about the size of a baseball, the size of a cantaloupe. So we start accumulating these, and some of them are from junior high, and some are from high school, and some are from our work situations, and some are from our bad relationships or kids that go haywire. There's just all kinds of things we go through, right? And so we end up living life looking kind of like this, right? Everybody that you know is really, if you could see their energy field, they would look more like this. So that clear, pristine, beautiful energy field that they started out with, instead of being clear and like a beautiful, clear day, it looks more like a cloudy day or maybe like a stormy, thunderstormy kind of day in their energy field. So with the emotion code, what we can do is we can come along and we can start removing these energies so that it gets you back to a place of where you started out. And it helps you to become and get back to the person that you were really intended to be in this world. That's what this is about, see? So, trapped emotions cause all kinds of physical discomfort. Well, I want you to go ahead and come up, and I'll show you how this works. I just need the chart of emotions. There it is, right there. Okay, here we go. Doesn't hurt now? Really?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, it does. Okay, good. All right. So 0 to 10, how bad is it?
Actually, it's probably about a 7 or an 8.
7 or an 8. That's still pretty good, right?
When I'm sitting, it's worse.
That's significant. Which hip?
Like this, down this leg.
Down that leg. Okay, cool. All right. Now, we're going to talk in a minute about the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind can't lie. It knows exactly what's wrong with us with a perfect understanding. Okay? It knows exactly what's wrong with you. So let's ask some questions here. And your name is Tony. Say, my name is Tony.
My name is Tony.
That's a true statement. I'm going to press down on her arm and you resist me. She's strong. Watch this. Say, my name is Bob.
My name is Bob.
If she says her name is Bob, she weakens. Why? Because she's telling a lie. Okay? Her name is not Bob. By the way, do we have a Bob here? Anybody named Bob? Nobody? Nobody wants to admit it? Well, all right, whatever. So let's ask this question. We have a chart of emotions up there, right? 60 emotions divided into 2 columns and 6 rows. Let's ask. First, let's ask this question of her subconscious mind. You have a trapped emotion we can release that's contributing to this pain on that left side of your body. And the answer from her subconscious mind is what? That's a yes answer, right? So now her subconscious mind has an emotion in mind, and we have to play charades with her subconscious to figure out what the emotion is. So this is kind of fun. It's like a game. You ready? Here we go. So what emotion is this? Is it listed in the chart in column A? Yes. So we just eliminated column B. Watch. Is this emotion in column B? No way. It's in column A. Her subconscious mind knows that. What emotion is it? I don't know. Is it in one of the odd rows in column A? Yes, it is. So we've narrowed it down now. Out of 60 emotions, we have 15 left. So we know it's in column A in either row 1, 3, or 5. So is it in row 1 in column A? Is that where it is? No. We have 10 emotions left. Is it in row 3 in column A? Bingo. We have 5 emotions left out of 60, just that fast, right? Now let's figure out what emotion it is. Oh, these are fun ones. So is it crying? Is that what it is? No. Is it discouragement? Is that what it is? Is the emotion rejection? Is that what it is? Is it sadness? No. Is it sorrow? No. Oh, okay. So when the subconscious mind takes you to a column in a row, and then you can't quite figure out what the emotion is, it's because the subconscious mind is taking you as far as it can take you, because this is an inherited trapped emotion. So it's a little different than just a regular trapped emotion. So you ready? We can ask this question. Is this an inherited trapped emotion? And we get a yes answer. See that? So let's find out now what the emotion is. So is this inherited crying? No. And just keep resisting. Is it inherited discouragement or inherited rejection? It's an inherited emotion of rejection. So somebody, in her line felt rejected at some point. It was very powerful. That's passed to you and is causing a physical symptom. All right? Let's see where this came from. You ready? Did you get this from your mom when you were conceived? That's when we received these. Yes. Did your mom get it from somebody earlier? Yeah. From her mom? No. So your mom got it from her dad. Okay, that's the only other option, right? Got to be either mom or dad. So glad that one worked out.
Yeah.
All right. So does it go back even further? Yes, it does. How many generations? Does it go back 10 generations from you? Yeah. 15 generations? Try that again. Ready? Resist. Go back 15? Yep. Does it go back 20? No. Does it go back 16 generations from you? 17? It goes back 16 generations from her, which, if I had my phone, which I do, we can figure this out. What this proves to us is that she actually did have ancestors, though. How many generations? 16. Okay, that's about 416 years. Or about 1606. Okay? When were the Salem witch trials? That was in the 1600s. Anyway, all right. So, here's an interesting thing, by the way. Is your mom still alive?
Yes.
Okay. How about her dad?
No.
Okay. Watch this, though. Now, and I don't know. You guys can make of whatever you want of this, but watch what happens on testing. Is that your grandfather, your mother's father, is he here with us now? And that's strong, see? What we find is that those ancestors, they're also carrying this energy. They're dead, of course, and many of them, their bodies turned to dust a long time ago, right? But nevertheless, when something like this is happening, it's like they get the message, and I don't know where they are or what they're doing, but they all seem to show up. Watch this. Are all those direct line ancestors here with us right now? Yeah, they are. Where are they? Are they floating around in the air up there? No. See, her subconscious mind knows this. Consciously, I don't know anything, and neither does she. But her subconscious mind, this incredibly powerful computer, knows what's going on. So where are they? Are they sitting out there in the audience? No. Are they up here, they're right up here with her. And that's how it always is. They're always up here, gathered around the person that they love, right? So let's give them a round of applause for showing up. Kind of showing up, right? They're kind of showing up. And that might seem weird, but it's okay. I'm weird. If I had told somebody earlier, the more people that think I'm weird, the happier I am, actually. So, all right, you ready? Mm-hmm. Just resist, hold it. Do we need to know anything else about this? Yes or no? Nope. So I'm going to release this trapped emotion. How do we do that? Well, you can use your hand or a magnet, And I'm just going to start here and go down her back. I'm going to do this 10 times. I'm putting energy now into her governing meridian. I'm just thinking happy thoughts. It's not complicated. And I actually lost count. Gene, are you counting? Gene usually counts. Is that 10? You didn't count that time? What the heck? All right, so that's 10. So ready to resist? Did we release that from you? Did it also release from your mom? Yeah, and from her dad? Yeah, and from all those ancestors? Did it release from all of them? No. Are they still here? So the ancestors are gone. There was one of them, maybe, or two, it didn't release from, but, that's up to them. Okay? I want you to take a walk now. Okay? Now, when people are having physical pain and we release a trapped emotion, I like to have them walk. It's optional. You don't have to do this. But when we release something like this, things tend to move and settle into new places and so on. So now, how does your hip feel compared to how it was before? It was about a 7, right, before?
Yeah.
Okay. How would you rate it now?
Really, it's just no dull ache is really what I have right now.
It's just a dull ache. Mm-hmm. So that's way better then.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So let's ask, do you have another trapped emotion we can release that's contributing to that trouble in there? Yeah, there's something else. So is it in column A? This is how this works. It's the same way every time. It's in column A. Is it in one of the odd rows? No. This time it's in an even row in column A. So is it in row 2 in column A? No. So is it in row 4 in column A? It's in row 4 column A. Oh, these are also fun. Is it anger? Is that what it is? No. Is it bitterness? Is that what it is? No. Is it guilt? No. So is it hatred or resentment? So it's what? It's see, you guys already know how to do this. It's inherited. So is that true? Is it inherited? So is it inherited anger? Is it inherited bitterness? Is it inherited guilt or hatred or inherited resentment? Try that again. Resist. Hold it. Is your arm getting tired? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's try this arm. So is it inherited resentment? Yeah, I think that's what it is. Inherited resentment. Did you get this from your mom? No. Came from dad, then that's the only other option, right? Did he get it from somebody earlier? No. So it just came from your dad. Your dad's still alive? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, and your mom is still alive too. You might want to talk to your parents after this and call them up, maybe tomorrow and ask them how they're doing. Because when we release things like this, people do process sometimes. So you can call them up tomorrow and say, don't cry, it's all right. Dad, don't cry. Mom, it's all right. They might cry, you never know. Probably not. Gene, are you counting? Dang it. That's got to be 10. Okay. All right, did we release that? Yes or no? Yes, we did. Did it also clear from your dad? All right, take a walk. Let's see how that feels. So we took it from a 7 down to a dull ache. The dull ache, maybe, let's see if we can get rid of that. Then we'll move on. What do you think?
Yeah, it's better.
The dull ache is gone? Hallelujah. All right, give me a hug.
Thank you.
There you go. Thanks.
Whoop.
Okay. All right, cool. So that's how easy the emotion code can be. So here's a little truth for you guys, a little reality for you, all right? And that is that if you have physical pain, it's a very high likelihood that there's some emotional baggage that is causing that pain. It might be something that happened to you last week, or it could be something that happened to an ancestor hundreds of years ago. But that's kind of how this works. So all the emotions are represented here on the chart, and the subconscious mind knows the closest approximation. Okay? So if you go to the dictionary, you'll see there are more emotions in the dictionary than you see here. But this is all you really are ever going to need because the subconscious knows the closest one. So now let's talk about the heart. The heart is a second brain. Okay? They found out, but actually it wasn't until the 1970s they discovered that the heart has all this gray matter and white matter in it. There's a little brain in the heart, they call it. And what we find is that, what we believe is that the brains that are in our heads are obeying the messages that are being sent by the brains that are in our hearts. When scientists looked at the nerve communication between the heart and the brain, they found instead of seeing most of the messages traveling from the brain to the heart, they found just the opposite. And so that was kind of a big shocker. So anciently, the ancient civilizations, ancient peoples believed that the heart was the seat of the soul and the source of love and creativity and romance and the core of our being, right? And we've never really given much credence to those old ideas, except that if it's Valentine's Day and you're really lucky, you might get a box of something yummy shaped like a what? Like a heart, right? Like maybe some chocolate shaped like a heart, or you get the little gummy candy things. They're gross. So if you look at the scriptures in the Bible, the word heart is mentioned almost 1,000 times. Isn't that interesting? And there are scriptures like this one: as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Well, what is the heart, really? It is what the ancients believed it to be. It's the core of our being, the center of our soul. Here's another one from Samuel. It says, the Lord sees not as man sees, for man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. Right? Well, the ancient Egyptians believed that when you die, you go through a ceremony on the other side called the weighing of the heart, where they weigh your heart against a feather. And if your heart is heavier than a feather, it's not going to work out well for you. You're going to the underworld, which probably is not a... Raise your hand if you'd like to go to the underworld. Anyone? One smart alecky kid here. But not really, right? But if your heart is lighter than a feather, then it means you made good choices and you're a good person, right? And you're going to go to the good place. So, back in the 1960s, when they started doing heart transplants, they started noticing strange things. People would sometimes come back to the doctor and they would report weird things like new cravings for food or drink. Sometimes they'd say their handwriting had totally changed. Sometimes they'd have changes in musical preferences and memories that didn't seem to be their own. This lady right here from the UK got a heart transplant. And when she was in the recovery room, her friends came in and they said, yeah, you've gotten your new heart. Well, what would you like to do when you get out of the hospital? And she said, well, I'd kill for a beer. And they were horrified because they only drank tea. But there she is, drinking her beer. She also found she craved green peppers and couldn't get enough of them. And she also had memories of being in places that she never in her life had ever been. And when they took her, when she was able to connect with the family of the donor, the heart beating in her chest now is from a young man killed on a motorcycle. And she found out from the family, oh yeah, he loved beer. And green peppers were his specialty. He ate them all the time. And those places that she had memories of being in, she found those were places where he had been. Here's one. A 47-year-old man received a heart from a 17-year-old boy. The recipient was surprised by his newfound love of classical music. He discovered later that the donor, who loved classical music and played the violin, had died in a drive-by shooting, clutching his violin case to his chest. Here's another one. A 9-year-old girl had recurring nightmares about being killed after receiving the heart of another child who had actually been murdered. Her descriptions of the murderer, as well as the murder weapon, from her nightmares led to the arrest and conviction of the killer of the donor. Think about that. Isn't that interesting? So she was seeing in her nightmares the murder of that other girl. Isn't that crazy? Now, there are whole books written about this. It's called cellular memory. And you can close off your mind to this and think, well, that can't possibly be real. But I'm here to tell you that you've been lied to all your life about a lot of different things. Raise your hand if you believe that that's true. I mean, we get lied to all along, don't we? I mean, here we are trying to scrape it together, trying to figure out what the hell's going on in this life. What is true? And what are we doing here? And what are we capable of? And what's really going on? And, that's all I've been trying to do all my life. Well, so here's something that happened that was also true. In 1998, my wife had a dream. She woke up in the morning and she knew that it was important. She described it to me. She said that in her dream, she saw this order wheel like you see in a diner. And there were some orders clipped to that order wheel. And she asked me, she knew that these were symbolic of something important. Some kind of issues that she had. So I helped her. We used muscle testing, figured out the first two orders in this order wheel were a couple of inherited trapped emotions we hadn't seen before. We'd never found them. We cleared those. And then something crazy happened to me. When I turned my attention to the third symbol from her dream, I had what I can only describe to you as a waking vision, where suddenly the room that I was in was no longer there, and instead I'm looking at this unbelievably beautiful hardwood floor. Now, I've searched and searched on the internet. I've never found a picture of a floor like the one I saw. It was the most beautiful floor I've ever seen in my life. This was high-def 3D, okay? I mean, 12K, beyond that, this floor was, it looked like it had 1,000 coats of polish. It was just like a mirror, and it was so beautiful. But as I'm seeing this, and by the way, this lasted for several minutes, and I don't use drugs, I don't smoke, I don't drink, nothing. It wasn't anything like that. It was actually a vision that came from up above, right? And at the same time that I'm seeing this, I have this understanding that comes into my mind that my wife's heart is underneath this floor that I'm seeing. I had no idea what this meant, and neither did Jean. So we prayed and asked God to help us figure out what this was. And then I thought, well, this is something to do with her. So I had her hold out her arm, and I started asking questions and getting answers. And what we found was that she had put up a wall. Sometimes, people, have you ever heard anybody say that? Oh, I had to put up a wall, I was in a bad situation. Well, guess what? That happens to about 93% of us. We put up a wall. Hers was put up when she was initially, back when she was 2 years old, we found. So I think God gave us the onion to show us how this works. Here's a little heart right in the center of the onion. And these trapped emotions, the energies of these trapped emotions they move to the heart area, and then they build up layers like you see here in the picture. And so sometimes we need to protect our heart, and that's exactly what's going on here. So just like the layers of an onion. So it changed her life in a big way because she had difficulty with feeling positive emotions. It was easy to feel negative emotions. She dealt with depression and anxiety, and she never really felt like she belonged in any situation that she was in with other people. She always felt like she was the odd person out until that last emotion was released. And one of the very next people that I saw was this this nurse that came in to see me. And you'll have to forgive me, this story's in the book, but it's such a great story. This woman came in to see me with really bad neck pain. She'd been to a couple of doctors for it. They haven't been able to help her. So she comes in to see me, and as I'm talking with her, she tells me her story. She says that she's 38 years old, she's a nurse, and she's basically celibate. She says, I haven't dated in 8 years, and I'm never going to ever date again. I'm going to die single. I had never met anybody who had sworn off relationships for life, right? And I thought, wow, that's pretty wild. And I said, why do you feel that way? What happened to you? She said 8 years before, she was really deeply in love with this guy who dumped her and broke her heart. And she hadn't dated since then and was never going to date again. So I tested her, and what do you think I found? She had a heart wall, right? There were 3 emotions making up this wall. All 3 of those trapped emotions had to do with that relationship, with that breakup. So I cleared those trapped emotions, 1, 2, 3. Took me probably 10 minutes or less. And all of a sudden, when the last emotion was cleared, suddenly the neck pain, which was what brought her into the office, was just instantaneously gone, right? Instantly gone. So she left the office feeling totally fine. She didn't come back. So 3 months later, she walks back in the office, and I'll always remember this, looking at her down my hallway, and I said, hey, I haven't seen you for a while. How are you? What's going on? She said, my neck has been fine since I was here, but she said, you cleared that heart wall for me. That really works. She said, about 2 weeks after I was here, I found out my childhood sweetheart's been living right around the corner from me for almost 8 years. And we're dating. And we're in love. And I think he's going to ask me to marry him. And I thought, wow, what a shift, right? Amazing. So, another amazing story that shows you how powerful this can be was a woman that brought her son in to see us. And he was 9 years old. And what had happened was, first of all, she noticed that it was trouble with homework. He wouldn't hand in his homework, even if he did it. And if he didn't, and a lot of the time he wouldn't do it. And she couldn't understand what was going on with him. She'd come into his room sometimes at night and he'd be on the floor, just laying on the floor. And she'd say, what are you doing on the floor? And he'd say, I don't deserve to be in a bed. And she just would scratch her head like, what is going on? He had this kind of a grin, more like a grimace. It was kind of pasted on all the time. like a smile, like a fake kind of a smile. He looked like this all the time. And there was something really wrong with him. She didn't know what it was. So one day she paid a surprise visit to his school, only to find his teacher berating him for how pathetic he was. And that was it. She took him out of school, took him home, tried doing homeschool. That didn't work either. She didn't know what to do. So she heard about the work that Gene and I were doing with the heart wall. So she brought him in to see us. And we tested him and found he had a heart wall. Now here's what's interesting. There were several emotions, layers of trapped emotions making up this wall around his heart. And each one of these trapped emotions had to do, in his case, with a death that had happened in their family. A couple of cousins had been killed in a car accident. Another cousin had been run over by a tractor and killed on this hayride. It's horrible stuff. And then we got to the very last emotion, the emotion that started this whole thing. What had happened was he was with his family at a lake at a family reunion in California where they lived. His big sister was 12 years old. She was the designated babysitter for him. And they were out on this dock at this lake. And his best friend, this little boy, 5 years old like him, was there. And his sister was trying to teach this little cousin of theirs how to swim. And he disappeared under the dock. And about an hour later, the divers retrieved his body finally from under the dock. And he was there, and he saw the divers pull this little cousin of theirs out from, and he was, of course, long dead and blue. And the overwhelming guilt that his sister was feeling for having this horrific thing happen. Can you imagine as a babysitter to have something like that happen? It's like the worst thing that you could possibly imagine. The overwhelming guilt from her became incorporated into his body and immediately formed into a wall around his heart, or his little heart was going to break. He just lost his best friend, and his sister, this had happened to her. She was the babysitter and was responsible. So we cleared that last emotion, and then the testing indicated that was it, no more heart wall. So his mom took him home. So for the next couple of days, he's just kind of lying around, kind of lethargic, and she was thinking, well, it doesn't look like that worked either. Well, he was processing. And people process sometimes for a day or so, and sometimes they feel kind of a little out of it. And that's what was happening with him. So on the morning of the third day after we worked on him, he got himself up early, got his backpack and everything, got his books, and came downstairs and said, Mom, I can go back to school now. I'm a happy pappy. That's a direct quote. And he did go back to school, and all of his learning disabilities were gone, and his joy was back. And she told me, she told us, she said, if she had not been open to doing something so different for her son, that he would not have survived. And he's 33 years old now. And I believe he's got a couple kids now of his own and so on. So that didn't take us very long to do. But you think about, how powerful that was. I got one more story I want to tell you about the heart wall. I was at an event. It was a new authors event, I was a new author back in 2007. And in 2008, I think it was, I went to this event. It was in New York City. And there were all these new authors there. And it was a big hall, like this big. And around the outside perimeter of this hall were all these booths. And there's Time Magazine, and there's Newsweek, right? And there's Good Morning America, and there's, the New York Times, and, all the shows and all the magazines. Everybody was there. And so all of us new authors have about 3 minutes to pitch our book to each one of these people at these booths. And then there's a bell that rings, ding, and we have to go to the next booth, right? And there wasn't anybody that was really interested in the emotion code at that point, right? Nobody was interested. But I ended up in front of this woman who was a freelance writer. And she was interested. And so I thought, okay, great, I'll tell you about this. So I was telling her about it. And then the bell rang, and it was a break. So we had a few minutes. So I started finding out a little bit more about this woman. She told me she was an Orthodox Jew. And she said that she was 41 years old, and she had a goal. Her goal was to get married. She really wanted to get married. She'd never been married before. She'd never even been in a long-term relationship before, but that was her goal. And I said, well, do you have any prospects? And she said, no. And I said, well, if you have a heart wall, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for you to find your soulmate. And she said, well, what is a heart wall? So I explained it to her. And then I thought, I don't have anything else to do. I'll just help her. And maybe I can release some trapped emotions from her heart wall. So I handed her a little refrigerator magnet, right? Because you can use one of those to release these trapped emotions. I'm sitting at this table across from her. And so I started doing some testing. And I found she had a trapped emotion making up the heart wall. There were about 5 or 6 trapped emotions making up this wall. And I would find the trapped emotion and get it ready to be released. And then she would release it by just swiping a magnet like this from her forehead over the top of her head to the back of her neck, right? And as I recall, she knew all of these different things, different ages, different emotional events that had happened to her. She remembered all these things. And sometimes people do, sometimes they don't. But we got to the very last emotion. And so she swipes. She starts swiping to release this emotional energy, right? She swipes the first time. She gets halfway through the second swipe of this magnet on her head. And all of a sudden, something really amazing happened. I'll try to describe it to you. Remember, I'm sitting across the table from her. And all of a sudden, it seems like, it's almost like, it was like a stone was rolled away from in front of her heart. And there was just this amazing, it was like light, really, coming out of her. It was just this beautiful energy, right? It's hard to describe. Imagine having a long, long, cold winter, right? Very gray, and all of a sudden, the sun comes out, and you walk outside, and you go, that's what this felt like. And it was amazing. Now, I tried to tell her what I was feeling, this energy, and she wasn't feeling it at all. I think that God allowed me to feel that in return for helping her, right? Kind of selflessly, right? And so I told her, I said, now that pure essence of who you really are, that heart of yours now, that wall is gone. I said, now that pure essence of who you are is now radiating out into the world, and it's going to be a lot easier for you now to attract things that you really want in your life. Now, this is going to sound like I'm making this up, right? But as I'm saying these words to her, this Orthodox Jewish doctor, single, that I had met, it sounds like a joke, but it's not. I had met this guy an hour or two before, and he struck me at that time as probably the best looking man I had ever seen in my life. He's got these big black loose curls, he's got this Roman nose. He looks like a Greek statue made life, right? Ridiculously good looking. He walks right by me, like I'm not even there, and he walks right up to her like a moth to the flame, right? And I don't even know if he knew why he was doing this, but he was like drawn in. And he starts this conversation with her, right? And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, this really works fast. Holy smokes. I mean, that guy, I couldn't have even picked, there is no better looking guy than that in the whole world, right? So anyway, the last I was in touch with her was about a year after that event. And she had still not found her soulmate, but she did have a book on the bestseller list, which, kind of compensated, I guess, right? I'm sure she's married now, probably has a whole bunch of kids. That was years ago. But think about this, you see there's an energy that we send. How many of you have ever walked into a dark room and there's somebody in that room and there's someone in there, right? I mean, we all have that ability, right? David Martin talked about those extra senses that, 1,000 years ago, there were 12 senses. Now we only have 5, right? Well, when you see somebody that you are attracted to, let's say you're single, right? And you're looking for a soulmate, you're looking for love, and you see somebody that's attractive and you send that little energy to them. It's like a little butterfly of love, right? It's an energy. They've measured it. They've actually photographed it in Russia. It looks like if you take a raging bonfire, and if you turned it sideways, that's what it looks like coming out of that heart. It's a very powerful energy. When you're feeling love or affection for somebody else, that's a powerful thing that is immediately communicated to their heart. But what if you have a heart wall? Think about this woman. 41 years old, never been in a long-term relationship. Why do you suppose that was? Well, because when she'd see a good-looking guy, she'd send a little butterfly of love to that guy, right? But it would have to pass through all these layers of anger and resentment and sadness and grief and etc. And by the time it gets past those, it's no longer the little butterfly. Now it's like the thing from Alien, you know? Right? And so the subconscious mind of that guy picks that up. Oh, wow. That chick's got problems. So then, you know, he goes the other way. And the result is she stays single. And I really think that's kind of how this works, right? You can't believe how many people have told us amazing things. People who, well, I'll share a couple with you. Probably out of time. One of my favorites is one of our practitioners said that one day she got a call from her sister who had been divorced for 9 years. And she called her up and she said, listen, she said, I'm tired of being alone. I don't want to die alone. I want to find somebody. She said, well, and she'd never let her sister work on her before. She said, would you come over and work on me and see if I've got a heart wall? So she did. So the two of them spent the weekend together clearing trapped emotions. They cleared her whole heart wall in a weekend. Neither one of them told anybody what they'd been doing. It was just the two of them. Private thing, right? Guess what started happening on Monday? The sister that was divorced for 9 years, all of a sudden her phone started ringing. Who do you think was calling her? Yeah, single guys. I'm telling you, this is how it works. It's really amazing. It's cosmic. I mean, anyway, so that's the heart wall. That vibration, that pure vibration gets tainted by that wall. We have had people who have fallen in love and gotten married in their 80s who had never been married before. We've had people who have told us, now think about this one. We've had people, many times people have told us that for the first time in their life, when that heart wall was taken down, they could feel the love of God for them, the love of the Creator for them. How profound is that, right? And the beauty of this is that it's something that's so simple anybody can do. But 93% of people in this world have this phenomenon going on. And so they're walking through life handicapped. They can't really feel all that well. Think about it. Where do you feel? When you're really feeling something, where do you feel it? If you're listening to someone who is performing at the maximum of their abilities, they're playing music or they're singing, what happens to you? You do this, don't you? You feel it right here in your heart, don't you? See? Because that's the core of your being. And for this world to transform, this world is in a transformational process. Raise your hand if you would agree. The consciousness level on this planet, I believe, is higher each day than it was the day before. But for this world to transform really, fully, we have got to get rid of enough of these walls around our hearts. Because we've got to be able to feel that love from up above. We've got to be able to be instruments for that love. And people have had near-death experiences and things where they have seen this work be part of this transformation, changing the world, right? And the beauty of it is you can learn how to do it easily, not hard. But when you have a heart wall, guess what? You probably deal with depression, okay? It's very, very common. The worst cases of depression that I've ever seen had a heart wall. And when that wall was taken down, I've seen people who were suicidal, who had to decide every day if they were going to live or die. One more day, I've seen them completely heal in a matter of days from having that wall taken down. Kids that are autistic, who won't look you in the eye. By the way, autistic kids always have a heart wall, in my experience. When you take down that heart wall from those kids, that's the first thing that they do is they make eye contact. Think about that. I mean, it's crazy stuff. Feelings of isolation, numbness, all these trapped emotions drive addiction, the heart wall especially. Social anxiety, If you got a heart wall, we believe it's implicated in heart disease and heart attacks and blood pressure problems and chest discomfort and respiratory difficulties and so on. And if you got a heart wall, you might have neck trouble, okay? Like that patient of mine, you might have trouble in your shoulders. I mean, imagine, what would it feel like if you had a big boulder in here, right, and you're carrying that around all day long? Well, you'd start to have some symptoms from that, wouldn't you? And that's exactly the kind of symptoms we see. It'll lower your immunity, too. How many of you were ever told you should follow your heart? Raise your hand. I think that's the best advice anybody can ever give you. But what if you have a heart wall? Then what? Well, it's a lot harder to follow that advice. And many people have found success after having that wall taken down. Let me tell you something. The best ideas, the best creative ideas that you will ever have in your whole life won't come from this brain. They'll come from this brain that's in your heart, see? And I believe that that higher power communicates to us through this brain, see? And hence why it's so important to take these walls down. So there's the chart of emotions. Where are you going from? Do you want to come up really quick? Where were you? Yeah, back here. Do you want to come up? Yeah, come on up. We'll see if you have a heart wall. See, if you go through something traumatic, you probably have a heart wall. Or a broken heart, too. Yep, and that's a real thing also. And what's your name?
Mary.
Mary. Say hello to Mary, everybody. Hi, Mary. All right. So let's see. Hold your arm straight out. And you just hold your arm up. I'm going to press down and you try to resist me. You ready? Here we go. Say, my name is Mary.
My name is Mary.
She says her name is Mary and she's strong. Say, my name is Bob. My name is Bob.
My name is Bob.
She says her name is Bob. She doesn't look like a Bob. And her body says, no, I'm not Bob. All right. So let's ask a question. Well, how do you think you could find out if you have a heart wall? You guys are so sharp. Do you have a heart wall? Uh-huh. Can we release a trapped emotion from your heart wall now? Yeah. Okay. So this emotion, let's see what it is. See, already her subconscious mind has an emotion in mind. I mean, you just trust the subconscious. Is this emotion in column A? Yes, it is. Is it in one of the odd rows in column A? Uh-huh. Is it in row 1 in column A? Yep. Is it in row 3 in column A? No. So it's in row 1 in column A. So let's see which one it is. You ready? Is it abandonment? Is that what it is? No. Is it betrayal? Is that what it is? Nope. Is the emotion forlorn? Is that what it is? Yep. So forlorn is kind of feeling all alone and hopeless and sad and desolate, right? Kind of all rolled into one feeling. And so do we need to know anything else about this emotion, yes or no? Now, you mentioned something happened, right? And what was that again?
My husband died.
Oh, your husband died. Oh, okay. And how long ago was that?
6 months.
6 months ago. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, let's see if this is about that. Is that what this is about? Yes, her subconscious agrees. Do we need to know anything else about this? No, see? So face that way and let's release this. Now, there we go. Okay, let's ask, did we release that trapped emotion of forlorn from you? Yes, okay, good. Do you still have a heart wall? Yes or no? Yeah. Well, let's clear another one. Can we clear another one? Yeah. Okay, where's the next one? Is it in column A? Yeah. Is it in one of the odd rows? Not this time. It's in an even row this time. Is it in row 2 in column A this time? No. Is it in row 4 in column A? Row 4, column A. Here we go. So let's see. Anger, bitterness, guilt, hatred, or resentment. Let's try these. Is the emotion anger? Is that what it is? No. Is it bitterness? Is the emotion guilt? Is it guilt? Is that what it is? Yep, guilt. Okay. So does that ring any kind of bell?
Yes.
That rings a bell for her. About your husband's death? Anything to do with that?
Yeah, I feel that sometimes, like, I feel the guilt that,
Okay.
yeah, it's like I haven't given him all the attention while we're still together, and I didn't express myself with freedom how I love him.
Okay.
So I regret those.
So you regret those things?
Yes.
Okay, so let's ask, is that what this is about? Is it about your husband? Yeah. So guilt. Do we need to know more about this? No. Okay, face that way. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. That's all it takes, 3 swipes to release that energy. Then we can ask, did we release that trapped emotion? Yeah, okay. Do you still have a heart wall? Yes or no? Oh, do you still have a heart wall? No, so that cleared her heart wall. Now sometimes it takes more than that But in this case, that's all it took.
And to add into that, I was just diagnosed with white matter in my brain, and I was very, very healthy, health conscious, but and also with my diet. As a holistic practitioner, I implement it in my life. But since I learned from talk that it affects the heart and the white matter really affect my brain. So it's really scientifically and medically proven that I have those results. And it's like, I couldn't accept it because no, this is not gonna happen. White brain, a white matter in my brain. So yes, truth. So the grief, the heart connection to your brain, that's really amazing.
Yeah, there you
Thank
go.
you.
High five.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Cool. So sometimes it's just that easy. I mean, that didn't take long, did it? You know, you think about that little boy that Gene and I worked on all those years ago. I mean, I don't know, that was quite a while ago. And, you know, we'd never want to take that time back. Well, you can learn more if you want. The emotion code, the book, you can learn it from the book. It's all in the book. So you can learn the whole method from the book, okay? It's all in there. Now, if you want to, you can become a certified practitioner. We have a pathway for people who want to learn how to do this, and they can do it for a living if they want to, or if you want to just get really good at it. We have a certification program. Level 1 certification leads to level 2, which is the body code, which I'm going to be talking about tomorrow, 1. And then we're working right now on level 3, belief code, and then level 4 is going to be healing mastery. So we have a whole program. It's a great program. Raise your hand if you're a certified practitioner of ours. Yeah, stand up, actually. We have a few of you. Give them a big hand. Awesome. These are great people. If you don't like people, it's probably not for you, okay? But if you like people and you like to see people's lives change and you like to be an instrument in the hands of the higher power to transform people's lives, then this may be just what you're looking for, okay? So as of this morning, this afternoon, we had 10,096 certified emotion code practitioners and 2,282 certified body code practitioners in the world. And so my wife and I travel and we teach, and that's pretty much what we do now. And so it's really a lot of fun. So you can connect with us at these various little places, you know, online, discoverhealing.com, drbareleynelson.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, you know, Twitter, I don't know, Instagram, you know the drill. I don't know what they all are, but we're on there somewhere. So great. Let's see. Okay, great. We have like 3 minutes for questions. Anybody have a question? Yes. Okay, if you don't know the emotions, can you heal yourself? You know, it's a really fascinating thing. The subconscious mind of every person in the whole world, and every animal in the world, and every baby in the world knows what's on that chart. Because that chart exists, like everything else, in the database of universal intelligence, or what Rupert Sheldrake would call the morphic field. That field of intelligence that fills the universe. That chart is out there in that field, and so everybody has access to that through their subconscious mind. And so what's interesting about that is that it doesn't matter if a person has never seen that chart before, and of course our practitioners know that this is true, right? It doesn't matter if a person that you're working on has never seen that chart, their subconscious mind knows exactly what you're looking for. It's really so amazing. I mean, the subconscious mind is just, it's so off the chart powerful and so intelligent. Like I said before, you know, it remembers everything you've ever done and every face you've ever seen in a crowd and everything you've ever eaten or tasted or touched or smelled. It knows all of that, and it remembers everything. It knows exactly what people need. And that's how I built my practice. For the last 10 years of my practice, most of the people that I saw had been told there was really no hope for them at all in Western medicine, and yet they were able to get well in spite of that diagnosis because I knew how to ask the subconscious mind questions and figure out what those underlying reasons were. And a lot of those underlying reasons are emotional. We're going to talk about the rest of them tomorrow at 1 when we talk about the body code. So you don't want to miss that. That's going to also be really interesting. If you thought this was interesting, you'll like that. Any other questions or anything? Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so the question is, if you clear your heart wall, and what if you don't really notice a change? Have you done it right? And sometimes changes happen right away when the heart wall is cleared. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they take time. And so everybody is different. And so I never know. I mean, back when I was in practice, sometimes, I remember one lady that came in, her son had a mohawk, and his grades were doing really bad in school, and he was so angry. He was so angry about his dad. You know, he hated his dad. His dad and his mom had gotten divorced, and she just had this really kind of pinched look. You know, she wasn't happy either. And so I cleared the heart wall on both of them, and the son just turned right around. It was amazing, the shift that happened. And I remember the last time that I saw him, he was so excited because he was going camping with his dad. And I mean, he was just so excited and so jazzed about that. It had changed the whole relationship. But his mom still looked the same. And she came to me, she said, I don't understand. She said, you cleared my heart wall, and I don't really feel any kind of a change yet, but obviously you see what's going on with my son. It's just radically transformed him. So what's going on? And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, it's your body. I just work here. So it's kind of, you know, I never know. So, but I ran into her about a year later. I was at this really upscale department store. I think it was like a, I don't know. It was some upscale store. And I ran into this woman. She came up to me and she starts talking to me. And I don't know who she is. And we're talking and she's telling me things. And I'm thinking, wow, this woman, I should know her from somewhere. Where do I know her from church? Or where do I know this woman from? And then all of a sudden it dawns on me, oh, wow, this is her. And she'd gotten remarried. It was a year later. She'd gotten remarried, had this job at this great department store, and was just the picture of happiness, right? But it took a while. So you never know. Yeah, you never know. And if you're ever in doubt, you can go to our website at discoverhealing.com. You can find a practitioner there. We've got a map of people all over the world. And by the way, this work is done at a distance just as well as it's done live and in person, see? And so our practitioners work with other people. In fact, I have to tell you, my wife and I were in Istanbul. We did just a little event there at the end of June. Istanbul in Turkey, right? I'd never been there before. But we felt like we needed to go. So we went and we met this guy, one of our emotion code, body code practitioners, right? His name is Umer. And we met his wife, and he has 3 little kids. And he told us, he said, he does 10 to 15 sessions, body code sessions every day, email only. People pay him in advance online. He does the work remotely and sends them the results via email. He never talks to anybody. That's how he likes to do. He does 10 to 15 sessions every day, 7 days a week. So you can, do the numbers on that if you want to. I mean, on our site, we charge $97 for a session, for an emotion code session. And so that's kind of our standard rate. If he's charging that, he's making like $25,000, $26,000 a month. And my wife said to him, well, he told us, he said, you guys have totally transformed my life. And my wife said, well, you really need to take Sundays off. And he said, really? He said, yeah, you should do that. He'll be good for you. He'll help you. So anyway, well, listen, this has been really, really fun. Thank you all so much. This is awesome. I'm hoping that they'll invite me back, but I don't know. But we'll see. But hopefully we'll be back next year. And thanks, guys. Thank you. It's really, really fun. You're awesome.